Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you stopped work and it felt good? And I don't mean relieved, I mean good. Like you shut your laptop or computer or whatever and didn't think about work for the rest of the day or the last ticket you were working on. If you ever think about this video is for you. Here's the thing that nobody tells you when you become a software engineer. This job is designed to take as much as you give it. And most of us give it too much. You stay an extra hour to solve that one problem, now that has become the expectation. You reply on Slack at 9 pm because you were bored, and now you're the person who is available late. You say yes to that one extra task, and now your boss treats you like a dump yard for work. Then slowly, you start feeling it. You're exhausted and frustrated. The quality of your work drops. Your mind doesn't feel as sharp. And what's worse is that you don't understand why. That's not a you problem, by the way. That's a boundaries problem. And while you're taught how important they are in our personal lives, nobody talks about how to set them at work. There are three main issues I see coming up constantly no matter where I work. One, the work never stops. The backlog never ends. And finishing work early just ends up with more work being added to the list. People feel overwhelmed with the constant pressure and have no time to come up for air, as they say. Two, your time doesn't feel like yours. Overtime becomes an expectation rather than an option. And more often than not, you aren't even paid for it. It feels like your time is worth nothing to everyone else and your boss expects you to have no personal life. Three, you don't feel heard. You bring up problems and voice your concerns and nothing changes. Your ideas are ignored no matter how good they are, and eventually you just lose interest at work. I'm sure at least some of that sounds familiar. For those who don't know me, I'm Navy, and I've been a software engineer for over 10 years. For a long time, I suffered from these problems too. And here's what I had to learn the hard way. Your employer isn't here to protect you or your time. And honestly, that isn't their job. It's yours. And once you accept that, things start to get better. So let's talk about what that actually looks like in practice. Learning how to value your own time is one of the most important lessons to learn out of this. When you start as a newbie in the industry, it's very common to want to spend some extra time to finish up work so that you can learn faster. And in my opinion, this is perfectly normal. This becomes a problem if you find yourselves doing this without ever volunteering for extra work. And that extra interest in learning becomes a routine part of your job. Now at first, this may sound harmless. What's a couple extra hours here and there after all? But there's two sides to this that make it a problem in the long run. First, there's a physical aspect to it. Your brain or your mind is basically the same as every other muscle in your body. There's a limited amount of work it can do without becoming tired. And if it doesn't get enough time to recover, you will become irritated and frustrated very easily, which affects your work. There's also a monetary aspect to it. Let's say you work 8 hours a day and get paid about 800 a day. Simple math dictates that you're worth 100 an hour. Now say you end up working 9 hours a day because you don't mind the extra hour. You still only get paid 800 a day. Congratulations, you've basically given yourself a pay cut. It may sound harsh, but it's important to have hard stops in your day. Stop work after you finish your daily hours and make sure to be regular with it. Eventually, your colleagues and your bosses will recognize this as your pattern and will come to respect it. Make sure to use your lunchtime exclusively for either lunch or relaxation. Having lunch over calls or while you work sounds harmless, but it starts to weigh on you over time. Make sure you have something to do outside of work as a hobby. It can just be watching movies or YouTube. It can also be something physical like playing a sport or going to the gym. Just make sure it's not work or work related. And if you've turned your hobby into your job, to be honest, it's time to find a new hobby. Trust me, the best way to want to stop extra work is to have something to look forward to after work. Saying no is a scary skill to learn. You're always worried about coming across as lazy or as a bad employee. But when done right, this actually helps build authority at work. It isn't simply about saying no. You have to provide an alternative when possible. For example, if there's a task given to you and you don't feel like it's needed, you should argue that an existing solution already solves the problem or provide better solutions. Now, this requires product knowledge and actually having an ownership mindset, but that's for a whole separate video. You also want to learn to identify your own capacity for work. If you know you can only achieve a certain amount of work each sprint or each week, you should start saying no to more work and explain that it is too much to finish on time. Managers actually respect when you deliver things on time and when you're honest with them about your capacity. Saying yes to everything will actually harm your position in the long run. And a big part about saying no is being able to say it respectfully. Being the guy who just refuses without any explanation or cordiality is the best way to get fired. Making yourself heard is a tricky one. A lot of developers feel like their opinions are ignored, and the instinct is to either be louder or to quit quietly. You actually have to force yourself to communicate based on who you talk to. Some people respond to direct and blunt conversations, but others respond to a more roundabout way of getting to the point. Knowing your audience is half of the battle. The rest of it is the message itself. Are you highlighting problems with processes? Make it constructive and provide solutions. Are you asking for help? Make sure you phrase it as a request rather than an instruction. Do you need some work to be done? Ask nicely. What works best is phrasing our opinions as shared opinions or as shared problems. Don't say, hey, our Scrum process is broken, but say, hey, we keep facing this issue every sprint. I think we can solve it by doing this. That way, you aren't complaining, you're problem solving. Now, before we end this video, I want to mention one thing. Not all bosses suck. In fact, most managers and department heads actually want to help you. In a lot of cases I've seen, the problems would have never become problems if developers would have been more open with the leads and managers. Effective communication can solve disputes early on, and avoiding having these conversations just makes it harder for you to do your job. I should also say that none of this helps you in an actual toxic work environment. Toxic workplaces can be hard to identify early, but if you find yourself in the situation, nothing I say will help you. But you already know what will. For a lot of us, being unhappy at work can be fixed with a little effort on our part as well as our employers. I plan on digging deeper into these and many more ways to be happier at work, so if any of this was relatable, stick around because we're just getting started. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave a comment. And I'll see you next time.